An Amish man named John Stoltzfus was once asked how self-sufficient the Amish really are. His answer surprised everyone. He said they are not self-sufficient at all. They buy steel, they buy rubber, they buy glass, kerosene, fabric dyes, certain medicines, and dozens of other materials they cannot produce themselves. They shop at Walmart. They purchase lumber they do not mill. They hire English drivers to take them to medical appointments in cities they will never live in. The romantic image of a community that needs nothing from the outside world is, in Stoltzfus's own words, a fantasy. But here is what he said next. Where the Amish are genuinely independent is in their ability to produce, from those raw materials, everything they need to sustain daily life: food, shelter, clothing, heat, education, healthcare, and economic security, using systems that are owned, operated, and maintained entirely within the community. They are not individually self-sufficient. No single family could survive alone. What they are is something the modern world has almost entirely lost: community sufficient. The unit of survival is not the person, it is the church district. That distinction between self-sufficiency and community sufficiency is the key to understanding how 400,000 people live outside the modern economy without collapsing. This is the system, all of it. The foundation is food. Nearly every Amish home has a garden, not a decorative herb patch, but a substantial plot of cultivated ground, often a quarter acre or more, tended primarily by the woman of the house with help from her children. Sweet corn, potatoes, tomatoes, carrots, beets, peas, beans, onions, peppers, celery, squash, and a half-dozen other vegetables rotate through the beds across the growing season. Fruit trees such as apple, pear, peach, and cherry are standard. Berry bushes line the edges of the property. The garden is not a hobby. It is infrastructure. Beyond the garden, most Amish households keep chickens for eggs, and many raise hogs, beef cattle, and dairy cows. A family might butcher 1 or 2 hogs and a steer each fall, yielding enough meat to last a full year when combined with canning, smoking, and curing. The butchering itself is a community event. Neighbors help with the slaughter, the processing, the grinding of sausage, the rendering of lard. The smokehouse, a small outbuilding found on most Amish farms, cures hams and bacon with hardwood smoke for days or weeks, producing preserved meat that stores for months without refrigeration. Dairy operations, particularly in Lancaster County, Holmes County, and parts of Wisconsin, produce milk that is sold to local cooperatives, providing one of the community's primary sources of cash income. Community effort makes much of this possible. The canning season in late summer is an operation of astonishing scale. An Amish pantry in September might hold 500 to 1,000 glass jars of preserved tomatoes, peaches, green beans, corn, pickles, applesauce, jams, and stewed meats. Pressure canning is used for low-acid foods. Water bath canning is used for fruits and pickles. The work consumes weeks, involves the entire family, and fills root cellar shelves from floor to ceiling. This is not a supplementary activity. It is the primary food supply for the winter months ahead. The farms themselves are deliberately small. An average Amish farm in Wayne County, Ohio, is 109 acres, roughly a quarter of the average American farm. This is not because the Amish lack ambition. It is because the farm is sized to be worked by a single family using horse-drawn equipment. No tractors, no combines, no diesel-powered machinery tearing across a 1,000-acre monoculture. The Amish farmer plants diverse crops, rotates them annually, fertilizes with animal manure, and manages the land with a long-term horizon that most modern agriculture has abandoned. Donald Craybill, the leading scholar of Amish life, has noted that Amish farms do not produce the large financial returns of modern industrial agriculture, but they also do not carry the debt. The average American farmer owes over $400,000. Many Amish farmers owe nothing. The community provides low-interest loans, sometimes interest-free, to help young couples purchase their first farm, and the expectation is that the debt will be repaid within years, not decades. The Amish do not carry mortgages in the conventional sense. They do not use credit cards. They avoid debt the way they avoid electricity, not because they do not understand it, but because they understand exactly what dependence on it does. Debt avoidance shapes economic choices. If you want to understand communities like this, not the tourist version, the real version, subscribe to this channel. That is what we do here. Clothing is produced inside the home. Every Amish woman sews clothing for her family, dresses for the girls, shirts and trousers for the boys, her own plain dresses and aprons, her husband's broadfall trousers and suspenders. The fabric is purchased from dry goods stores, often Amish-run, in bolts of solid colored material. But the labor is entirely domestic. A woman might sew dozens of garments per year, repairing and altering as children grow, using treadle-powered sewing machines in communities where electric machines are prohibited. The clothing serves a dual purpose. It provides physical covering and it provides identity. Every stitch reinforces the boundary between the Amish world and the English world. When you make your own clothes, you are not dependent on fashion, on retail chains, on overseas manufacturing, or on the economic system that supports all of it. You are dependent on fabric, thread, and skill, and two of those three are things you already have. Construction operates on the same principle of community labor replacing purchased services. When an Amish family needs a barn, the community builds it. This is not folklore. It is a functioning economic system. 100 or more men arrive at dawn. The women organize and prepare meals for the entire workforce. By evening, a structure that would take a commercial contractor weeks to complete is standing. The lumber is often sourced locally. The framing is done by hand. The design follows patterns passed down across generations, optimized for function rather than aesthetics. Smaller projects, such as sheds, corn cribs, or additions to a house, are handled through what the Amish call frolics, where a smaller group of neighbors and extended family gather to complete the work in a day or two. The labor is donated. There is no invoice. The understanding is reciprocal. When your neighbor needs a frolic, you show up. The system works because the community is small enough that everyone knows who contributes and who does not. Healthcare is where the self-sufficiency system faces its most honest test, and where the Amish response is most revealing. The Amish do not carry health insurance. They were exempted from the Affordable Care Act individual mandate, just as they were exempted from Social Security in 1965. Their position is theological. Insurance transfers risk to a corporation, and the Amish believe that risk should be borne by the community. When a member gets sick, the church district pays. Subscribe if you want to keep going deeper. We explore the communities the world talks about, but never takes the time to understand. The first line of defense is home treatment. For minor illness and injury, Amish families rely on herbal remedies, poultices, teas, tinctures, and a deep oral tradition of folk medicine passed from mother to daughter. Books like Emma Byler's Plain and Happy Living document the range of these treatments, with chapters on general tonics, herbal medicine chests, and salves that cover everything from coughs and fevers to burns and digestive complaints. Leonard, the Amish storekeeper we featured in our shunning video, ran an entire health supplement section in his bulk food store and had long conversations with customers about natural approaches to chronic conditions. Some Amish practice chiropractic care within the community. Some operate herbal medicine stores. A few perform what scholars call gray area dentistry, unlicensed but skilled tooth extractions and basic dental work done at home. Many Amish women give birth at home, attended by midwives, partly for reasons of cost, and partly because the clinical environment of a hospital feels foreign and unnecessary for an uncomplicated delivery, but the Amish are not opposed to modern medicine. When a condition is serious, for example a broken bone, appendicitis, cancer, or a complicated pregnancy, they go to the hospital. They pay cash. They negotiate directly with healthcare providers for reduced rates. A 2024 study published in PubMed surveying over 1,000 Amish households across 12 states found that 81% reported membership in a mutual aid organization for medical expenses. Annual healthcare spending among these organizations ranged from $500 to $18,000 per participating household. When bills exceed what the local church can cover, benefit auctions are organized, events that sometimes draw thousands of attendees from both Amish and non-Amish communities. More than 90% of respondents in that study agreed that their community would help them pay for health care. But 39% also reported sometimes avoiding recommended medical care due to cost. The system works. It is not without friction. Education is handled entirely within the community. Amish children attend one-room schoolhouses staffed by Amish teachers, typically young, unmarried women who are themselves 8th grade graduates. The curriculum covers reading, writing, arithmetic, geography, and German. There is no science class in the modern sense. There is no sex education. There is no college preparation because there is no college. Formal education ends at 14, after which boys enter apprenticeships in farming, carpentry, metalworking, or manufacturing, and girls begin intensive domestic training in cooking, sewing, canning, gardening, and childcare. The Supreme Court upheld this in Wisconsin versus Yoder in 1972, ruling that Amish parents could not be compelled to send their children to school beyond 8th grade. The court accepted the Amish argument that their community's survival depends on practical training within the family, and that prolonged formal education would undermine the values and skills needed to sustain their way of life. The economic model that holds all of this together is radically simple. Minimize expenses, eliminate debt, and replace purchased services with community labor. But the economy itself is changing, and the change reveals something important about how the self-sufficiency system adapts. For most of Amish history, farming was the center of economic life. Every family worked the land. Every child grew up understanding soil, seasons, and livestock. But as Amish populations doubled and land prices rose, particularly in established settlements like Lancaster County, where an acre of farmland can cost $15,000 or more, the community faced a structural problem. There was not enough affordable farmland to give every young family a farm. The response was not collapse. It was adaptation. Over the past 40 years, the Amish economy has shifted dramatically towards small-scale manufacturing, construction trades, and retail. Furniture shops, cabinet makers, metalworking operations, machine shops, and construction crews now employ a significant portion of Amish men, particularly in Holmes County, Ohio, and northern Indiana. The Amish furniture industry alone generates billions of dollars annually across multiple states. Amish-built homes, barns, and commercial structures are sought after for their quality and craftsmanship. The shops operate without electricity from the grid, powered instead by diesel generators, pneumatic tools driven by compressed air and hydraulic systems. The tools are modern. The power source is independent. This is not a contradiction. It is the Ordnung. Working as designed, evaluate each technology individually, accept what serves the community without creating dependence, and reject what pulls the family away from the home and toward the world. The critical difference between an Amish shop and an English business is overhead. No utility bills, no health insurance premiums, no marketing budget, no corporate office. Labor costs are lower because apprentices learn on the job rather than attending trade school, and because the owner's family often works alongside hired employees. These structural advantages allow Amish businesses to price competitively while maintaining quality standards that command premium prices, particularly in markets like custom cabinetry and hardwood furniture, where craftsmanship is valued over speed. The Amish do not pay utility bills. They do not pay insurance premiums. They do not pay Social Security taxes. They do not carry car loans because they do not own cars. They do not carry student debt because they do not attend college. They do not pay for child care because mothers raise their children at home. They do not pay for elder care because grandparents live with or next to their families until they die. Their single largest expense is typically property tax, which they do pay, and medical bills, which the community covers collectively. This is why an Amish family earning $50,000 a year from a furniture shop or a dairy operation often has more financial security than an English family earning twice that amount, but carrying a mortgage, car payments, student loans, insurance premiums, childcare costs, and utility bills. The Amish spend less because they need less, and they need less because the community provides what the market charges for. But here is the part that the self-sufficiency romantics never mention. The system only works because of the constraint. The reason the Amish can rely on mutual aid is that every member knows they will be held accountable by a community that sees them every Sunday, that shops at their store, that lives across the road. The reason the barn gets raised in a day is that everyone understands the reciprocal obligation. The reason healthcare costs are shared is that the community is small enough for everyone to know who is sick and how much the bill is. Scale this system up and it breaks. It only functions because it stays small, 20 to 40 families per church district, each district autonomous, each community self-governing. Moy. The moment the unit grows too large for face-to-face accountability, the mutual aid dissolves into bureaucracy. The Amish have understood this for 300 years. It is why they split their districts when they get too big, rather than building bigger institutions. The cell divides. The system replicates. And each new unit remains small enough to work. An Amish community is not an alternative to the modern economy. It is a parallel economy, one that touches the outside world at specific controlled points such as steel, glass, fabric, fuel, and medical care, while keeping everything else inside a system of community labor, mutual obligation, and voluntary simplicity. It is not self-sufficient. No human community truly is. But it is resilient in a way that the modern economy, for all its power and efficiency, is not. Because when one piece fails, the community has a dozen other pieces ready to absorb the load. That is not nostalgia. That is engineering. Social engineering, applied to the problem of survival, refined over 3 centuries and still running. Thank you for watching. If this is your first time here, hit subscribe. We go inside the communities the world talks about, but never takes the time to understand. New content every week.